Navigating today's real estate market can be tricky. Want to buy or sell a house, finance or insure a house, or stuck with a house and don't know what to do? Florida Talk Real Estate has been your local one-stop real estate shop since 2012. Get the advice you need from your local real estate pros. Here are your hosts, Jim DePola and Johnny C. live on Real Radio.
Good Saturday morning. Welcome to another edition. It's Florida Talk Real Estate. We got you for 2 hours of infotainment. It's great to have you on board. Thanks for being there. 92.1, 101.7. Thanks for tuning in on the old terrestrial radio. Maybe you're on your free download, your iHeartRadio app. Oh, yes, that's right. That makes us worldwide if you're doing that. Thanks very much for being with us on a Saturday morning. And, of course, live streams occur as well on a Saturday. You can find us on Florida Talk Real Estate Facebook page. Florida Talk Real Estate LLC on YouTube, home of a ton of informational chunk videos, plus our live stream on a Saturday. If you're out there right away, thank you very much for being there. If not, remember, you can join us at any time. Florida Talk Real Estate on both live streaming. I'm your boy, Johnny C. Of course, you got a toll-free number, 877-927-6969. You got questions, comments, concerns in the world of real estate. You want to be involved in the conversation at hand, dial it up. The first voice you'll hear, the melodious tones of our producer extraordinaire. There's Jimothy, my brother from another mother. What's up, dude?
Hello, and good morning, gentlemen. How we doing on a Saturday?
Awesome. Good to see you, my man.
Good to see you as well.
It throws me off to see you without facial hair, though. I have to tell you.
Still?
Dude,
how long's this been now? When did I shave that? About 3 months ago?
Months, yeah.
Every time. Because I see him once a week.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Well,
but it's, and for years. Mm-hmm. Years. I now I know what it feels like to be that kid when your dad shaves their facial hair off. And you're like, you're not my dad.
Has Carla gotten used to it yet?
I think so, because she doesn't even really mention it anymore. And again, I don't even really notice it because I don't look in the mirror, so I don't see it every day.
Yeah, but you shave a lot.
Like, haven't seen myself. Haven't seen her for weeks.
Yeah. Very good. Carla who?
Hitting a razor to parts of your face, though, that just never got hit with it for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. Well, never, because I've only ever shaved my mustache once.
Wow.
In my entire life when I was young, 24, something like that. And when I first started to, of course, my skin was a lot more sensitive because it never saw a razor.
Ever. It was, don't touch me.
Have you, now that you're shaving regularly, have you upgraded your shaving equipment, or what are you using?
No, same.
Okay.
Same. I just, now instead of stopping and trying to shape around my mustache, I just do it.
Just wipe it out.
Do the whole thing. Yeah.
I will get used to it. And at that point, he'll grow it back. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, that's sure. Good to see you as always, man.
Good to see you, Johnny. I hope you and the family are well.
Yeah, so good, man. Thank you very much. Johnny C, that's me. There's Mike Rauch. He's the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm. If you ever shave too, that would probably throw me off big time. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can picture you any other way besides the full beard.
Yeah.
I can show you pictures, but yeah, pretty sure I've had it since we've known each other.
Yeah, for sure.
I probably I've had this beard for
It's your
8 or 9 years.
That's how I picture you.
Yeah.
It's like,
for
Jimothy.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at that face for 6 days a week for many years, and it always had the facial hair.
At least a stash.
Yes.
Now I started growing the handlebars a little bit.
Yeah.
A little later on. That wasn't. I didn't always have.
No,
that.
but the stash was there. You were. I remember Josh Cohen from back in the day tried to call you Bandit because you had that you had that bandit look.
Yeah.
Like a motorcycle bandit?
Smoking the Bandit.
Smoking the Bandit, Burt Reynolds.
Oh.
That stash was
okay.
It was Bandit.
Yeah.
Of course, it wasn't gray back then either. Or as gray. Or white now, really.
Back then, that's what the chicks were into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Tom Selleck, Burt Reynolds.
Porn stash.
I know you guys don't have the visual, but you can close your eyes. There it is. You see it.
Yeah.
Give me your hand.
Do you ever?
No, your other hand. That's
Close your eyes.
Do you ever shave? I mean, every now and then you just get in the mode, Mike. That
where my face?
Yeah. Good point. Thank you. Thank you.
No, I haven't shaved my beard off. Tiffany does. She won't allow it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I had that as well.
And I do what I'm told generally.
I want to see our fearless leader grow out a full beard. Told you for 13 plus years now, he runs a top producing Keller Williams team. Florida Home Pros at the Keller Williams Innovations. There's Jimmy D. Jim DePola. How you be? You grow a beard for us?
He's got one going.
Hey.
No,
Look
no.
at
I
it.
want full like.
Well,
Can
no,
you
I
grow
don't-
in a good one? I am so
I don't-
patchy. I can't do it.
I think I can finally grow a beard, but the idea of maintaining it all the time versus just scraping your face and taking it all off, way easier.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't like the whole do you have razors and special razors and stuff?
I mean, for years and years, it was just Mach 3. And then recently I got caught up by one of those ads and I got,
like a Manscaped thing or
no,
whatever.
I
Like
got
Aries or
the,
somebody. Yeah.
you know, the machined
Oh,
aluminum.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Lifetime
Mm.
supply.
Oh,
Yeah.
baller.
That one.
Look at you.
That one.
Hey, you got to invest in yourself.
It worked. Their advertising worked. Tell you.
It's
But-
it's funny you were talking about not imagining Jimmy without his mustache. I was thinking the same thing yesterday about somebody completely different. I was watching John Bolton, right?
Yeah.
And he's got that big, thick white mustache,
Yeah.
and it goes right across the creases of his cheeks or his jowls, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah,
whatever
big
you
one.
want to call it.
Yeah.
And it fits perfectly in there. It doesn't go outside it, right? And I was looking, I was like, what would he look like if that was off? That looks like a big lip there. But anyway, and then you're talking about Jimmy today. I was like, oh, it's a little John Bolton-y today.
Yeah, that dude's got like 4 fingers of lip.
I know he does,
That's
doesn't he?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Big, thick,
Yeah, and a big, thick
kind of
one.
hanging
Yeah.
over his mouth.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
little bit. Right. To, yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was funny. So, we have a lot to talk about today. We got a bunch of creepy critter stories because I love those. Some of them are I don't want to do them so much every week, but they're so good that I feel like I want to talk about
got to,
them.
right?
Got to do it, right? But also we're going to talk a little bit. There's some maybe help on the way to condo owners that are having condo crisis for financing on their condos. We're also going to be talking about mortgage rates, what really happened in the last week. I mean, it was pretty crazy in the news. And the rates kind of did bounce around a lot. But when the smoke cleared, at least for right now, what really happened, we're going to talk about that, okay, with Mike. Let me see. We're going to talk about people's economists and prognosticators, why they keep changing their opinion of what's going to happen in the real estate market in the coming year. Like, in 2025, they keep changing their
From day to day.
from day to
From
day.
statement
So we're
to
going to
statement.
talk a little bit about that.
Yep.
And but before we talk about that, it was funny you guys were talking about music before and concerts and everything with Jimmy before we were on the show, because one of the articles I saved to talk about today, because I thought, Johnny, you would have good insight on this. They're not doing Sunfest this year.
Oh no, it's been
Yeah, and I didn't
canceled.
realize
they're not
that.
doing Sunfest. Although they kind of were like, we might bring it back, but no, Sunfest is done, dead. Put a
Yeah,
fork in it.
I know. I remember that we kind of talked about a little bit last year. It was a little bit on the down low because they sold the building, right? They sold the building that they organized Sunfest in, and everybody said that's the writing on the wall.
The writing was on the wall was when they started getting rid of the art. I was like, oh, this is just gonna turn into suck.
Oh, did you read the Palm Beach
What
Post
do you mean, the
article?
bands that they were lining up?
No, the
No,
art.
the
Used to be a
artwork.
lot of
Artwork.
art. Yeah,
See,
vendors and
that's
stuff.
that's an interesting perspective because Mike probably doesn't remember. So I remember when Sunfest was created and what happened before Sunfest to get Sunfest created, because there was a party. It basically, in my opinion, Sunfest kind of started through when they were trying to regentrify Clematis Street, which was pretty nasty in the late 80s, early 90s. It was really nasty over there.
Yeah.
At night. So during the business day, it would be a business place, and you see all business people working there and everything. And then at night, it would be a ghost town. It was just like prostitutes, crack addicts, and bad people that you didn't want to hang out with unless you were a bad person.
Sorry,
too.
what was that address?
Yeah, exactly, right?
Some unsavory.
Are they doing any open houses down there?
So what happened is a bunch of young people that I knew, they started a thing called like a Halloween kind of fest. And they hooked up with that guy that owned that. He's super famous over there, the developer, and he was a young guy too at the time. But he owned that respectable street cafe, and then he went down to Miami and opened a whole bunch of nightclubs there, and he opened a bunch of nightclubs up here. Lost Weekend he owned,
Well, Clematis turned into nightclub hub.
Well, he started that.
Yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name, and he was a young guy. And he would take these beat up, abandoned like places, and he would just move in and do low rent renovations of it, and made it cheap place to go drinking and have fun for young people. So the young people, they were bringing young people. Then they came up with a festival that was supposed to be like an anti-fest. I think they called it Ice or something. It was supposed to be the opposite of how hot Florida was and everything. And they tried to flip their head on it. And then that guy got more heavily involved in the events. And then it slowly morphed into, hey, let's do something during the summer when businesses are really hurting really bad. And the whole thing was geared towards bringing people downtown. There just wasn't enough people downtown at night.
Sure.
And they were trying to support the businesses.
It's funny because the events like the boat show, and it brings a lot of people, but the businesses get just crushed.
A lot of them do.
In the name of bringing people in for businesses, you're destroying business. It's always a funny give and take. Sunfest was the same way. None of those businesses were super benefiting. It's great there's foot traffic everywhere, but they're not here for you.
They had a
right.
Nobody can park that wants to come see you.
Yeah, exactly.
They had a quote in the Post article from one of the managers for the bars. I think it was Bradley's. And they were saying that they were like going to say, what do you think that Sunfest is shutting down? He's like, yeah, it wasn't that good for us, right? It created a lot of problems and stuff. He also said that the way it changed, when you said it changed from art to music, that was a big thing. So before...
Well, not that the music was bad, but when it was both, it was great. And once they started dwindling down the art, that's when Sunfest was starting declining, in my opinion.
Right. So the article, I'm not saying, because I don't think I've been to Sunfest more than 3 times out of the 40 years it was there. So I'm
that
not
could
like
be part
an
of the problem.
I used
right?
to love Sunfest.
But
you just go every night.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
But the thing is when it first started out, it wasn't so music oriented. It was really community oriented, and they would have like it was like an art festival. You go down and the artists would be there, just like you see on the weekends everywhere. But they were one of the first people to do it in the area, right? For that thing on a pretty regular event. Then it turned into more music, and then they realized in early 2000s, I think it was, is that they could bring in a lot bigger bands if they raised the rates, and they thought they could draw the crowds, and they were for a while. But I guess the last 2 years were horrible. Right after COVID, I think they basically the year before COVID, I think they lost $2 million, and 2 years before COVID, they had lost $1 million. And it's a nonprofit group. So then COVID saved their butt because they got some PPP money or small business administration money. And then they try to do it in 2021 and 2022.
Maybe they misunderstood nonprofit.
Yeah. So yeah. It was like, we don't want profit at all. In fact, we want to take a loss.
Heavy losses.
Huge losses.
Yeah, this is a heavy loss business.
But anyway, I feel like that's a loss, but I also feel like it's going to revive in some way. Will it be Sunfest the way that people think of Sunfest as this big, gigantic music event? Nah. But maybe it'll morph into that again eventually.
I know what they're trying to, and it's funny because all the local rags are trying to frame this as the replacement for Sunfest. There used to be this event, and I wish I could give it its due. It has a name. I think they've done it 6 or 9 years, something like that. It's a local band focus. And I guess the place they used to do it, they used to get like 900 people. So now they're going to do it at the Meyer. It's going to be a free event, right? And they're kind of bringing in a little bit of vendors action, but free event. Free's the good part. But they're hoping to kind of turn this into the replacement for Sun, at least from what's being delivered in the local rag. Like I said, I don't see it as going to be anywhere near. We're talking about 900 people to, maybe you get 1,500 this year if they're just kind of walking through. But local bands, so you'll have friends and family. I love that it's free. I think anytime you get live music is great, but to dub it as a replacement for Sunfest is kind of silly.
Well, yeah, and people are just jonesing to have a replacement, right? So they're going to try to shoehorn somebody into
gone
it.
to Sunfest,
but that's how Sunfest started, though. Sunfest started a few hundred people downtown, just getting together. It was a core group of people. They were usually young. The other thing that was very interesting is that people forget this, but a large part of how Sunfest was created was during bad economic times, when times got tougher, right? that's when the businesses needed more things. And then the local people, young people, started saying, hey, we need stuff to do too. Let's support each other and try to do something. It was really community based. My friends,
Grassroots.
my friends were involved in it, and I watched them do this whole thing. I was not involved in it at all. I just watched.
Sure. Watch it grow.
Yeah, and it was really amazing. But it did start out like little tiny thing, and it took.
And it did grow. You ended up with the party barges, and you ended up with. I mean, there was just it. There was a peak.
$100 a ticket, you know, and it used to be started out at $5 a ticket, right? So I mean, it you know, so and maybe it'll morph into that. I think economic cycles really relate to it. And I didn't. This is the other thing I found out, and this is what I was thinking about you when I was reading the article. I was like, we should talk about this. How many other music festivals are dying? It isn't just Sunfest. Like they shut down the Okeechobee Music Festival locally, and apparently there's a lot of music oriented events that are just not drawing the crowds anymore, and they're not doing well. And that's what you were saying to Jimmy outside before we started the show.
Yeah, so I mean it is there's pockets of it, and there's there are events that destroy.
How does Ultra do?
Ultra does phenomenally.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I don't think it's a great blanket statement by any stretch. Like I got a festival coming up in a few weeks in Daytona, and it's ginormous. I mean,
There was a bunch of talk about Coachella for some reason.
Well, that's
Coachella was
2 weekends of ginormous, and I mean that's some deep pocketed tickets right there too.
Yeah.
You're spending, and there's a lot of folks. I just look at a lot of these events, and I'm like, people are just. You know what's interesting? The trend for festivals is attend before you pay. So this year, in particular, they've offered this. They always gave the $10 down, make payments. Like they give you the payment option, interest free, which is great, right? But you paid off by the time they're sending you the tickets.
Right.
Okay.
That would make sense.
Like a layaway plan.
Yeah.
We do it for Rockville instead of forking over whatever we got to fork over, and it's substantial. We give them a little bit, and then we just make our monthly payments. Our last payment was done like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. Our passes will be showing up here any day now. It's a beautiful thing. This year they started instituting, and I mean festivals across the nation, you actually pay after you attend.
even if you didn't like it.
Yeah,
I don't understand the concept.
Fascinating.
I don't even understand. What do they do? They hold you hostage. They won't let you out until you pay.
You're gonna have to hire collecting agencies now.
Yeah,
because
they'll foreclose on your home.
Wait, you're gonna watch the concert and leave, and then they're gonna come back and go, "Hey, you owe me money for seeing that concert."
After the fact. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's gonna work out well.
Well, it's just
Who
like
came up with that concept?
Like anything you buy on a credit card, you get the thing before you pay for it, right?
Yeah, but you have a credit card that's
you can default on the credit card. Yeah. I mean, you can default on these tickets, right? I mean, it's the same.
You're putting something down, right? You're not just walking in and say, "I'll pay you later." Like you're giving a credit card or something, I think it's like right?
Minimal. I haven't pressed the button to do it, right? I'm like, but
you're tempted.
When you start seeing that, you start going, well, that's a sign of the times.
It could be that maybe they realize that people like Johnny, they realize you're in advance, so you have enough time to do your like the layaway type option. But there might be people who are like, oh my God, what's happening this weekend? I want to go. I can't afford it. Let me finance it.
But why would the concert people say, okay, come on in and watch the concert and I'll pay you later?
They lock you in.
But they didn't
mortgage it against your home.
They didn't offer it the whole way. This isn't going to be 100,000 people that owe money after the fact. They offered it like 2 months ago on the last stretch for the fill-in. But again, it's a sign of the time. I've been going to concerts religiously for a long time. I've never seen any promoter be like, hey, you can pay after the show.
They have figured out what the phone companies figured out a long time ago, that you will way overspend as long as you can pay it off in increments.
That's right. Way overspend. Welcome to America. I mean, that is so American.
The house, the business I'm in.
Yeah.
Not like,
or anything that you're buying above your monthly budget,
I pulled up the local one, Johnny. Does 561 Music Festival sound right?
It does sound right.
Yeah. So 561 Music Festival, 20 local bands.
When is that happening?
In the Meyer.
Yeah, Meyer Amphitheater.
And it's May 3rd.
All right. So as they dub the replacement for Sussex.
May the 3rd be with you.
May the 3rd be with you as well.
Hey, wanted to talk about something that we talked about last year. The BLOB is back.
The BLOB.
The Sargassum sargassum plants. You know, the seaweed is back, and
I have some good news on that
and
front.
It's bigger than last year. What's going on?
This past weekend, I was actually in a conversation, and so in the real world, somebody mentioned sargassum, and I was like, "Hey, I know what that is.
I know what that is.
I know what that is. Wait a second, sargasm.
Sarcasm. That's where you say something, you mean it in a different way.
Yeah, don't be so sarcastic.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
I thought it was just somebody really chatty about
No, but it did. It came up. He actually used sargasm, and I was like, "Oh, really?" And I was able to identify and have a legit conversation.
I thought it was just a sarcastic remark. Release.
No. Really, we were talking about sargasm somewhere other than this radio show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So
really is.
We were breaking records last year with this, right? And every month since then, it's been breaking records according to the article I read. And bottom line is there is 13 million metric tons of seaweed between Africa and the Caribbean right now. 13 million. Last year there was 12 million metric tons, right? So now we're up to 13. And a couple of years ago we were only at like 9 million.
But the seaweed's supposed to be there.
Well, it's interesting. They don't know why they're not 100% sure why the blooms happen and everything, but now the theory is, or what they're saying is, it has something to do. This is what I think is interesting. The Amazon River. And when the Amazon River, when it's in a drought, less of this stuff is growing. And then when it starts filling up again, that's when this stuff starts blooming again. And it comes all the way from the Amazon, they think. Isn't that cool when you think about it?
Amazon controls so much more of the world than I even
imagine. It just shows you how everything's tied in. So important how everything's tied in the ecosystem.
Is so true. Yes, so true.
But there's a photo in this article where people are actually using those little what do you call those little foam tubey things that you hang out in the pool with?
Pool noodles,
right?
Pool noodle.
A couple people with noodles in the water, and you can't see any water. It looks like they're just laying atop of grass, right? They're just, it's just a no pun intended, a sea of sargassum. But anyway, I just thought it's funny. So it's back. It's gonna.
We'll see it on the beaches.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing it here. Remember last year was so bad. It was a big tourism thing. We found out how much money that the, I don't know if it's the tourist agencies or the cities or whoever it is going out there and scooping all this stuff up to make it more.
Well, now we can blame the
tourists.
Right.
Blame the sargasm for low tourism right now.
Yeah, exactly. But what I didn't find, you know what we didn't find out? You know what we didn't find out last year? It's like, what did they do with it when they picked it up? Do you think they just brought it to the dump?
So I think we wondered this. I feel like we did this.
Too? Yeah.
Is there some use that we can have for it?
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll be reading more about this as the summer comes on. So maybe we'll learn.
Maybe what do you call the things that cheerleaders use? Pom-poms?
Pom-poms.
Yeah, pom-poms.
Oh, turn them into
natural, all natural pom-poms.
Yeah, a lot less than the plastic use.
Of course, you have to preserve it with some petroleum-based product, but
of course,
it's fine.
Yeah, of course.
You can't have them falling apart on you.
Yeah, gas is coming down though.
It's definitely in this area because the Nomad Surf Shop in Boynton that does surfing lessons and everything, they were saying they see a lot more seaweed, and it seems like it's earlier this year. So it's already here in Florida. And I did notice, I was out with Jarrett Perry CPA Group, doing my taxes on Thursday. And one of the benefits of working with Jarrett, maybe I shouldn't put this out loud, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Get to go on a boat ride afterwards and go fishing, right? So we did our taxes. Then we
not everybody,
not every Perry Group CPA client.
That's not a part of the contract.
So that was really nice. And we went out with his son, and we caught a couple of mangrove snappers.
Nice.
And we had a really nice time. So that's a really nice benefit. So the tax thing isn't as stinging with Jarrett.
I heard he may be coming on here soon.
I want him on soon. So
did you get your taxes done?
I got my taxes done, and I have to talk to you about that, Mike. We were talking about you very involved because I'm self-employed and I'm going to be buying a home this year. So I have to make sure that my taxes are set up correctly so that Mike can get me the loan I need.
Yeah. I want to focus in on a big part of what you just said right there. You're going to be buying a home this year.
I know it's pretty bad.
Well, I don't know whether it's bad, but it's a highlighting of so many people think, oh, it's such, how could you buy a house right now? What would you do? Buy a house right now? Jim's trying to position himself to buy a house this year. Like, to give you an understanding of the marketplace, it's not a bad time. It's a good time it's a good time for you and your family.
It's actually perfect for your type of situation where you're not trying to sell and buy.
Right.
Really, that's the perfect time.
It's really is a good. We're going to get into a little bit about this later, and but just so that people, people sometimes wonder why I don't own a house and I've been renting. And part of it was that I had a really serious health issue several years ago. And part of my decision was, because it was very serious, I made a decision I was going to go to the beach for as long as I had. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I really wanted to heal. And I felt like that was really going to help me out. Sure. I couldn't afford to live at the beach, like, buying a single family home. And I could afford condos at that time, but I didn't want to buy a beachfront condo because of all the problems with the condo stuff that's happening right now. I couldn't afford new construction on the water. I probably could have afforded, an oceanfront, an oceanfront community somewhere, but it probably would have been a 50, 60-year-old building. I don't really want to go through that. And I'm so glad I didn't, because the place I'm renting right now, my landlord is paying $70,000 for concrete restoration.
Ouch.
That's in one building. Mm-hmm. There's 150 units, so they're all paying that.
Yep.
And there's 4 buildings, each have 150 people.
Ouch.
So can you imagine how much money is being spent? And it's a 50-year-old building, and it's probably going to have more stuff in the future for sure.
Yeah.
So it still has cast iron pipes for its drain, for its sewage and stuff, and that's breaking all the time. So
you would have been one of those people, because I think you're coming to the realization you don't necessarily want to live on the beach anymore, right? Like you think about moving somewhere else. So you'd be selling a condo in a very difficult time to sell a condo.
Yeah. So I'm really glad I stayed there. I really felt like it helped me get through the journey I went through.
Well, it's not like it's anybody's business, but you've owned property within the last...
I've owned a bunch of property.
You sold a house, but this is a primary resident within the last decade.
Yeah. So the thing is that it was a personal choice. It felt weird. It still feels weird not owning a property. But this year I really was like, you know what? I'm healthy. I'm strong. I miss having a dog. I want a dog. I don't want a little tiny dog. I want a bigger dog. So I can't do that in a condo. I'm like, I got to go get a place.
Yeah.
So
taxes are getting prepped accordingly.
Yep. So
you know what happens though, Jim? You get a house, you get a dog, then you're going to get a lady.
I don't mind the lady, but not the W word.
Oh yeah, never again.
I'm done with that.
Remember the rule.
That's so funny.
I'll take a lady, but ain't no women coming to this house.
Oh, that was cool. I like it. But so I'm doing exactly what I tell people on the air, right? Self-employed, you got to talk to your mortgage person and say, hey, this is what I think I want to do. Can I do it? What do I need to show?
And we started talking about that last year, right? So I actually just had a closing this week, Jim, a lawyer, self-employed, who I've probably been talking to for 3 years about, just kind of prepping. Like they weren't ready then, but this was their time. They were ready, but we had been talking about it and saying, hey, listen, it's really important. You need to file your tax returns, not in a way that's, usually for self-employed borrowers, it's about kind of minimizing taxable income,
right? So
that you're not
pay the least
amount of taxes that the IRS allows. Essentially, you take advantage of whatever deductions they allow and kind of maximize it.
Yeah,
very, very common. But when you're trying to qualify for mortgage, you kind of want the opposite. You want like maximum taxable income, right, within reason, and certainly enough to get you into the price point that you feel like you need to land in.
Because if you're getting a loan in particular.
Well, if you're getting a loan.
Right.
Yeah. You're trying to apply. Right. And listen, these days, that's not the only way. It's not always about tax returns. Like there's alternative income docs, like the old stated income. It's kind of not quite that severe, although that's an option. There's bank statement analysis and profit loss, but those are higher risk loans. And with higher risk means elevated down payment requirements and elevated interest rates and fees, essentially. So the traditional kind of conventional FHA, VA you got to look at tax returns for self-employed. And
so even if you make good money, you can qualify with a higher risk. And then essentially without mortgage insurance, you're paying for mortgage insurance because you just said you're going to have more skin in the game. You're going to have a higher interest rate.
Sure.
So, and that's what mortgage insurance is for a higher risk.
Right. Yeah, that's the way to
qualifier.
Look at it.
Yeah, that's exactly. So mortgage insurance offers coverage for a higher risk loan. So those low down payment FHA, conventional low down payment has MI. So it's a very good way of thinking about it. But that 20% down threshold is a very difficult one to achieve for most people, right? So if you're buying, a $500,000 home, that's $100,000 on the down payment, right?
Let's plow through the break at the 9:30 break. Let's just plow through. We'll do the 10 o'clock break. Let's just keep talking about this because this is good stuff right now. To me, this is like grade A info for people that are just thinking like, I'm so frustrated. I want to buy something, but I don't know how to get there. I don't know what's happening in the economy, so I don't feel confident, about what my plan should be because it seems like it's changing every moment. So
if you want to be involved, 877-927-6969. That's toll free. You can get involved in the conversation if you have a question, comment, concern. Of course, if you're not comfortable on the radio, always remember FloridaTalkRealEstate.com, your one-stop real estate shop. Access to the entire team. Pros, experts in their field at FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com.
So one of the reasons why I decided this summer to go ahead and buy like this year, because I was pretty close last year. I was thinking about it last year, but then staring at that ocean every day and hearing that sounds like
waking up to
maybe I'll squeeze it out just a little bit longer. But now it's like, no, I definitely got to do something. But there's also like economic things that I'm doing for this, right? Why I'm doing it. Number one, besides the need that I want to buy a house and I feel like it's in my best interest for the long run, but also like right now specifically, I've gone through the period where now I am a first-time home buyer again.
Nice.
So under the under the guidelines, I haven't owned a house or primary residence for 3 years or longer, right? So now I qualify to get the state down payment assistance program if I want, as long as my income is okay and everything.
And
right?
Why would you not want?
Right. Why wouldn't you want to take advantage of that? So I know that like in what I'm looking at right now, that I could get somewhere between $10,000 from the state of Florida up to about $22,000 from the state of Florida on the price range I want to be with my down payment. And I probably am only going to need about $30,000 to come to the table roughly. So if I got the $22,000, it's like paying first class security almost, right?
Yeah.
And even if I only got $10,000, that's 1/3 of the money that I need of the $30,000. Am I wrong about?
I was thinking first class security is like where you living. That's
cheap.
Well, I'm living on the
$7
beach.
grand a month.
No. If it was
you said 21,000.
No,
$8 grand.
Like $8
grand. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
$8 grand.
Okay.
Like,
I thought you said 22 was like your
pulling
first
out of
class
my
security.
pocket $8 grand.
Yeah.
So it's like first class security.
Yeah.
So but anyway, so those are some of the reasons why I want to use the down payment assistance programs. The other thing is, and this is going to get people freaked out. Okay, well, not freaked out, but they're going to be surprised. The interest rates aren't that bad. And what do I mean by that? I've been looking at these interest rates now with everybody on the show. And what we found out is for the last like 18 months or so, this is where we've been. Where we are right now is kind of much where we've been. Now, has it gone up a quarter point or down a quarter point from where we are right now? Absolutely. A quarter point is important when you're trying to save money, but it shouldn't be the difference about whether you buy a house or not, a quarter point interest rate. How much do you think, let's say I'm making up a number here, guys, and I'm really making up numbers, but let's say you're buying a $500,000 house, Mike, right?
Okay.
And let's just say you're putting 10% down and you can get it for just to make easy numbers, 7 or 7.25. What would the difference be on that 0.25 difference? You're probably on the mortgage payment.
I could plug it in, but my gut is telling me it's like $120, maybe.
Oh, it would be that much. A quarter point would be that much. I thought you were going to say like $25 or something.
No, well,
see, I'm learning.
500K.
Yeah, and I picked a number just out of my butt.
Yeah,
so 10% down, 450 financed is what you're looking at. Again, ballparking numbers.
Yeah, hold on. So maybe like I should have a better feel for that than I do.
Okay. That's okay. I'm throwing it out there blind here. So the thing is though, is that we're at an interest rate that isn't crazy high and it's not crazy low. we're at an interest rate that we've seen many, many times over the last 40 years. And we're not even at the higher end.
So is that a
of what we've
Goldilocks? We're
seen.
at the Goldilocks zone for interest rates?
Well, I wouldn't say that because the prices are really high right now.
What,
and
what
that's
is that? What does that mean exactly?
Oh, Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold, just right.
Oh,
Not too high, not too low.
perfect.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
so the interest rates are not stopping me from looking to find something that I want that's affordable and I want to buy. Because waiting for the interest rates to get lower, I know what's going to happen when that happens. I'm going to be fighting with everybody in order to get my deal. But now I can walk around really slow like a tortoise, go to house, peek in, see if I like it or not, come back 3 times. I'm not doing any of this,
True.
but come back 3 times and the property will still be there most probably. And you're not turning in full asking price. Let's
Yeah.
be real. When you're the buyer's side, you're not turning in full asking price.
Or you could, get that $8,000 that you need, get that from the seller potentially.
That was going to be my next part, Mike. So that's okay. No, that's okay. So interest rates are not crazy high, crazy low. I know that if I buy now and the interest rates drop, I'll just refi when it makes sense. And then I'll even have a better situation. But I'm not even worried about the interest rates. You know why? Seller's going to give me money for that.
Yeah.
Right. So not only am I going to get the down payment, this is my plan. Not only am I going to get the down payment assistance, right, to help me pay for down payment and closing costs. You can also use that to buy down the mortgage rate, but
Sure.
I'm not going to do that.
You can
I'm
do
going to
that.
ask the seller to give me money to buy down the interest rate.
You could do that
Now,
too.
I know all the sellers out there are giving me the finger.
They're like, "What, Jim? Don't you represent us, Jim?"
I
Jim's
do.
like, "Yeah, when I'm your selling agent, believe I'm gonna
This
help you
week I
navigate
negotiated hard this week for my customers.
Let
I
me
did.
answer your math
But-
question. So
okay.
it's a $450,000 loan amount. We're talking about the difference between 7 and 7.25. It's about $90.
Okay.
$80 a month.
$80, right?
$80
So
a month.
that to me is not. I don't want to buy a house now because it's $80 a month more. That's not a number that I think, if you're realistically about trying to buy a house, that you're going to say, I don't want to do it because it's a quarter point
It
difference.
affects you if you are stretching your limits.
It can when you're at the upper limits,
Yeah.
but instead of not buying a house, unless it's really a deal breaker, you could always change what you want from your house to get into. If the $80 is really important, you could find a house that will save you that $80 a month. And sometimes the sellers will do it. I was just reading an article yesterday where they're talking about how there are more seller concessions going on. Seller concessions are when the seller offers something other than a price drop to the buyer to incentivize the buyer to buy their particular house, right? Or this buyer needs stuff, so they go to the seller and go, "Hey, Johnny, I want to buy your house, but I need this from you in order for me to pull out the deal."
I can only buy it if I get an $8,000 credit.
A
from you.
lot of sellers are saying yes to that now.
Sure.
And they're actually doing this. I just read one where somebody, in order to make the deal work, paid for the HOA up front for 7 months. Now, I don't know why that helped them in the long run, because it doesn't really affect the debt to income ratio or anything. It's still the same amount every month. But it made a deal. It made a difference of the seller selling the house or not selling the house.
The one scenario that would pop to mind, like you have limits on how much money you can get from what's called interested parties. So like seller, your real estate agent, the lender, like contributing towards your closing costs. Number one, it can't exceed your total closing costs, right? We're not talking about money. That money can't go towards your down payment, right? It's going to go towards other costs. So if you happen to negotiate a credit that exceeds either the total of all of your closing costs or that's higher than what's allowed, like maybe Fannie has a 3% limit on seller concessions. So if that's the case, but you got some extra money you don't want to leave on the table, you're like, well, how would I do that? You have to increase your costs somehow. Well, instead of increasing your costs, they're basically saying, okay, we'll pay for my HOA for 6 months.
We'll put it over
right?
here.
It's not a cost. It's just like, it's not an inducement to purchase. It's just, a way of us, not leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
Another way, Jim would say, okay, well, that's too much money. I need to increase my closing costs. Let's throw that money at an interest rate, right? So I've negotiated whatever, call it $15,000 from a seller, but I only got $12,000 in total costs. Okay, let me take $3,000, buy down my interest rate, and not leave that negotiated seller credit on the table.
So you said, Jim, that the concession isn't necessarily, and actually the numbers are starting to show that it's not lowering the price. There's other concessions involved
there's
more
price
than not.
drops too.
Price drops are
Yes,
happening, of course.
yes.
All you have to do is pay attention to the market. That is happening. But there's, from just listening over 13 years, there's more, excuse me, there's more of a benefit to the buyer with those concessions because of the closing cost aspect, right? Than lowering the payment. Because if you just lower the cost, the seller still has to come up with all that money for down payment, well, for closing, and other fees. And if the seller gives those concessions to the buyer for that, that's less money they have to come up with. So there's almost more of a benefit to do it that way versus the price drop for the buyer.
It depends on the scenario. So I think most people think when you're negotiating, like it's a typical scenario, you get into contract, you do home inspections, and you got whatever, $4,000 of things that you want to ask. You want to ask for money, right? $4,000 of repairs or anticipated costs or whatever. And so, hey, seller, we've done our inspections. We found this dollar amount of issues. Most people say, okay, let's reduce the price, right? So you go from $450 to 446, right? Something like that.
5,000 because we have a stat for that. So say $5,000.
Yeah, $5,000, right? So you go from price from $450 to $445 for that $5,000. So if you're financing, that $5,000 price reduction doesn't benefit you. It's not like it's leaving $5,000 in your pocket, right? Because you're financing 95% of the price,
right?
So your cash requirements only get reduced by 5% of the $5,000 reduction, right?
So $250.
So you're basically still bringing the same amount of cash.
Yeah.
Now, if you contrast that with, okay, instead of doing a price reduction from $450 to $445, let's leave the price at $450, but I want a $5,000 credit towards my closing costs, right? That basically leaves $5,000 in your pocket.
That's $5,000 to you.
And it's $5,000 that you can use to effectuate the repairs that you spotted, right? So you can use that upfront. So that's like an example of inspection seller credit. But you can also use it, like you go into the negotiation, Johnny, like I need $5,000 because I don't have it, right? I can't close on this particular home, because I got my app. I know my numbers. I need $5,000 more than what I have. Where am I going to get it? Okay, so Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'd like to offer you $450, what you want, but I want a $5,000 seller credit to use towards my closing costs.
From the seller perspective, what's the difference besides framing it in your head between dropping the price $5,000 and giving them $5,000 in concession?
Some sellers are very nervous that when you start even talking about that kind of stuff, person can't afford the loan. They can't qualify. Why am I going into a deal with this person? They're not going to close. They can't even afford to buy the house without me, right? So they get very hyped out about that, right?
Or if maybe appraisal comes in low, then what? Like,
yeah,
but they're using every penny they got.
That isn't they don't even think that first. The first thing the seller thinks is Mike can't afford this loan. He's asking me for $5,000 or he can't buy the house.
So that's all part of framing it in your head.
Yeah. So in their attitude, and I'm not saying that they're right or wrong. I'm just saying that's their feeling, right? And some people
could say whether it's right or wrong.
It's wrong.
Well,
it is. I'll say it. That's wrong. You just need to be shook and redirected.
Some people just don't. I had a customer out in the acreage recently. She did not believe in that. Right? She just, if you can't just buy the house outright, then you shouldn't be buying this house. Well, was
she flush herself?
Yeah.
After selling?
What do you mean?
I mean, was she financially? Stable.
Yes, and this wasn't like a desperation sale or anything, but her attitude was, I don't want to go into business with people that can't afford it outright, and it was a line in the sand, and I wasn't going to cross it because that's the way she felt.
Well, and
it's her house, right? Now, could she had more opportunities if she was more open-minded about that and cast a bigger net where you find qualified people? Because I understand what people are afraid about when people are asking for concessions. But Mike, how many times do you see, not everybody, because I can give you horror stories as the listing agent where we took deals and they needed the concessions and the deal fell apart anyway. But that doesn't normally happen when I work with buyers and need concessions and I'm working with Mike, because Mike does his research. to make sure that everything's okay and they're going to close.
Right.
Right.
That's what it's
Because we
all
have
about.
a closing.
Right.
But is it really that unusual for people that are asking for the concessions not to be able to close? Do you think industry wise?
I mean, I definitely would say that the amount of cash required is oftentimes the biggest hurdle with buying your first home, right? Usually your first home, because if you're selling a home, you've developed some equity and stuff. So and that's where the down payment assistance programs have always been really, really helpful, because it allows you to kind of overcome that hurdle. But seller credits has also been one of the tools that we have in the tool bag to say, hey, listen, you're a little bit short of what you're going to need. Where are we getting this money? Right. So you're probably going to need whatever, $22,000. You only got 15 in the bank. We're going to need some help. Where's it coming from? Oh, your family, maybe they kick in a few thousand. Great. Let's count on that. Talk to them about that. Maybe you can get a seller credit too. Just kind of your real estate agent has to know what they're doing, and they just work it into the deal. Like, you make your offer, you need $5,000. That's the offer you're going to make. If they have objections to it, talk to them about it. Like, it should be able to Johnny's point, like at the end of the day for the seller, it's kind of like, are you willing to walk away with this amount of money? And if you're okay with that scenario, you shouldn't mind so much how we put the deal together to get you with that walk away number.
And that's always my attitude.
Yeah.
It's like, when I'm selling something, my attitude is, what's the bottom line I'm getting? And if we have to work things around and make it work for all sides, that's okay, as long as I'm satisfied.
As long as you're getting the number. Yeah. And the other thing, like some sellers, like the really, really shrewd seller, is going to say, well, I'll take the $15,000 price reduction because my commissions are a percentage of my sales price. So if I reduce my sales price, then I get to pay less commissions. And then you say, yeah, but you're talking about, 5% of 15,000, so you can kind of get into that. But at the end of the day, it should be for the seller generally 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So your proceeds are going to be the same either scenario.
And here's another reason why we have interest rates are not horrible. Okay. We have down payment assistance programs. We've got sellers that are offering more concessions than we've seen since 2009 across the nation, right? And then we have another thing, growing inventory, right? The market stats came out this week.
And you mentioned 09. I read the other day, or at least the headline that said our home sales are the slowest they've been since 09.
Since 09.
That's interesting.
Correct.
And you said we're giving more concessions than we have since 09. Look at
That's
that.
kind of lining up.
Look at that.
It's kind of like inventory increasing.
Yeah.
Days on market, increasing.
And the other thing is just like the last crash we had. I'm not saying we're in a crash, guys. I don't want anybody to make it sound like we're going through a change. I don't know if it's a crash, right?
What do you call it when your teenager has a fender bender in the shopping mall parking lot?
A fender bender.
Right? That's not a crash, right?
No.
That's just, it's some sort
It's a
of
fender bender.
You're not paying attention.
So
slow down in the parking lot.
I bumped them.
But what happened was what's happening now is this inventory has grown tremendously. Port St. Lucie County has more monthly inventory than any of the other 5 counties surrounding it. How crazy is that? St. Lucie was always the lowest inventory because it was the inexpensive homes that everybody wanted to buy if you were on a budget. Now, Port St. Lucie has more homes for sale percentage-wise than Broward or Palm or Dade or Indian River County or Martin County. How crazy is that, right? So we're going through changes right now. So now you have all these houses to choose from. So this is another great reason why it's to be a buyer. You have all these houses to choose from. You have houses that are in great condition, and they're going to be asking for more money. But if you want that turnkey property where you don't have to do anything with the newer roof and the kitchen's been done and bathroom's been done, and you're willing to pay what's fair market value, not crazy market value, but fair market value, and maybe even a little tiny bit less, you can find those out here. And if you want the fixer-upper where you want to get the extra equity in the house, because you want the house that isn't fixed up, I'll put the kitchen into where I want, and I want to put in my bathrooms, or I'll put on the roof, I'll deal with it later or whatever. And you can get the house much, much lower in today's market because the inventory is so low. All of those homes, there's really good opportunities out there. Now, will all the sellers just cave in and give you what you asked for? Absolutely not. But you're only looking for one. right? You're only looking for that one seller that wants to work with you.
Well, and the house that you like.
Yeah, and let me tell you, I've worked with some great. Yeah, of course, it has to be the house you like.
It'd be like, I found a great seller, and if I found
I
an
don't
awesome
like.
house,
If
he doesn't own the house.
If the house was good, I would buy it in a second, right? Hey, why'd you buy your house, Bob?
He was amazing.
Yeah, Bob. He was an amazing seller. I had a couple that I should do a shout out, and I'm sorry I'm late on this, but James and Rachel, they sold the Brady Bunch house. We closed on the Brady Bunch house, right?
Cool.
That's the 6-bedroom,
Oh,
2
nice.
bath out in Palm Beach Gardens.
Yeah.
We went through heck with that house.
They were buying that house, right?
No, they were selling
They
it.
were selling that house.
And I was selling it. And then we went into contract with somebody. We went through heck and back because they said they were doing cash, but it was really hard money, which is a whole thing we'll talk about on some other show. And then they decided to do conventional financing instead. And the whole thing turned into a mess. And then the deal died. Then we had to put it back on market and sell it again. And let me tell you, these sellers were highly motivated to get this deal done. They gave a great deal to that buyer. And I almost felt it was almost too great of a deal, but the house had been sitting on the market for a while and they were just put a fork in it. I'm done. And they were happy. They sent me the nicest email yesterday saying how happy they were and what a great job, me and Nancy and the team did and everything. And we did great.
Not surprised by that.
But they went through, theirs was not a smooth transaction. They went through some very severe bumps in the road. Had the chippy, when you say somebody's chipper?
Yeah.
They had a very
happy.
chipper attitude about the whole thing. I wouldn't say they were happy about it, but they had a really okay attitude about it.
Yeah, positive.
Yeah, and they were very positive, and they really wanted, and this has happened a lot of times with myself, really. They really wanted to like the buyers that they were selling with. It seemed like in COVID time, it was very more transactional.
Yeah.
But it seems like lately the sellers and buyers are communicating
that
a little
sentimental
bit more.
connection a little bit.
Yeah, and that it makes them feel good. Both sides feel, oh, that seller is awesome. I can't wait to move into this house. Or, oh, those buyers, I really want them to buy my house.
They're going to be great in this
and
house.
That's nice. It's really nice when you go through those kind of phases as opposed to the tough, we got a deal or no deal kind of thing, and it's all transactional.
Right.
But that's another reason why it's great to be a buyer in today's market is because of all the inventory out there. So there's just so much going on.
So you end up selling to a different buyer?
We ended up selling to a different buyer, and they got an excellent deal on it.
Normally, I'd say there's a cautionary tale there. Like you start out, you're making a cash offer because you're basically doing cash equivalent type financing, and then you're switching it up to conventional midterm, and that seems like a very big change. Right? Like, wait a second, how did you get to that? Now, it just so happens I have one loan right now where I'm kind of massaging the loan program based on certain factors. So it's not, you start off with plan A and then sometimes you have to pivot plan B.
Are you upper body or lower body? What are you rubbing on right now?
Oh, massaging, you mean? Yeah, we're down towards the legs.
Gotcha. It's like calf.
Yeah. But yeah, to go from hard.
No, nobody's gonna pick me.
Timothy, you're live.
To go from hard money to conventional is that's a pretty big change.
Yeah, it really is. And they had problems with the insurance. That house was 1964, but it had a newer roof, like 2019 or 2021, but it had cloth wiring.
Oh,
right. So that is pretty scary for people to have cloth wiring in the house. So Ross was able to give us the guidance that we needed for that and everything.
Ross Canaris,
Moss Canaris,
Judo Beach.
Which I want to do the roundup before we're gonna after this we'll go ahead and take the break. But I wanted to say to everybody that responded to the weekly email I put out. I put out the weekly email. I was actually late this week. I usually put it out on Mondays. I put it out on Wednesday this week because I actually write them. I don't. My coach told me to have AI do my weekly newsletter.
Jim's like, I went to J school.
Yeah, I'm like, nah.
I got this.
I don't want AI telling our audience what's going on. I don't trust AI. Anyway, I put out last week. I think the headline was, "Here's how Ross might be able to save you some money."
Yeah.
I think was the email.
Can Ross save you some money?
And a whole bunch of people, reached out to Ross, and one of them is watching our show right now. It was Susan. So Susan, thank you so much for reaching out to Ross. Betty, thanks for checking us out on Facebook. Hey Mom on YouTube. Magali, you're out here all the time on Facebook. Thank you so much. Francis, thank you. And hope everything's going well for everybody. Hope you're having a happy Saturday. But it was really great. Everybody's come out. Now, I haven't seen all the results of it yet, of the people asking for insurance quotes. Oh, the whole point was insurance is getting cheaper. It isn't like dropping like crazy, but you may be able to save some money if you want a free quote. All you got to do is reach out to us, give us your address. We get over to Ross. Ross will give you the quote.
It's worth shopping.
And he also said auto insurance is dropping too. So you might want to get your auto insurance check with him also.
Okay.
So that's what people are doing. They're just reaching out from that email and giving us their address. It's that simple. All they do is send us the address. And then we get over Ross. And I've seen Ross responding to everybody. I think a couple of them were able to get discounts. Some of them were not. Ross was like, stay where you're at. Right.
It's also good advice to receive from a professional. Like, hey, I've taken a look. You're okay where you're at.
You're doing as best
exactly.
you
And
can.
that's and it's free. So and it takes you nothing other than writing your address in an email to us, and then you get the response back. It's pretty cool. So
does it take a long time? Is there some sort of priority rush?
Actually,
fee?
I saw Ross do some of these the next day.
Yeah.
The horror.
Oh
It took
my
him the whole
gosh.
next day to respond, right? No, usually it's same day, no later than next day, almost always. Unless I guess you're doing it like 10 o'clock on Friday night.
Right.
I mean,
you get it
Amazon
Monday.
could do it. Why can't Ross?
I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to talk to him about it. That's slacker. That's slacker.
Ross is up.
But that's awesome. If you guys aren't part of that newsletter, it's like newsletter, what newsletter? We probably don't have your email, or you've junked us and you're not getting it. So all you got to do is reach out to us. I guess you'd have to reach out by text or phone call since the email's not working, right? And just say, hey, I want to be part of that newsletter. A couple of weeks ago, we had some stuff about Mike in there and what's going on with Mike for refi. Is it a good time to refi or not, and stuff like that. So we kind of keep you updated what's happening in the market. If anything interesting we learned on the show the Saturday before, we throw that in there. The emails, Nancy says I should be writing 3. I could get 3 weekly newsletters out of 1. Because I try to give a lot of information what's happening that week.
Yeah.
So I know it's long. You don't have to read all of it. Just read the headlines that you think are most appropriate to you and move on and share it with other people and ask them to get involved in it.
Do that.
Okay.
Let's do a quick break.
Let's go ahead and do a break.
What are we going to get into?
On the flip side, we're going to talk about what actually happened with the interest rates last week because everything was so crazy. And we're going to get it from a real life person that works on interest rates every single day.
Every day.
Even though last week he was on vacation, so he probably doesn't know what happened last week. All he knows is, can I have another margarita?
Yeah,
please?
I knew it, but I forgot. I drank it away.
Yeah, you drank it away.
I'll tell you, my first margarita there was super stiff. It was clear, Johnny. It was clear.
Oh, wow.
And I finished that, and I told the waitress, I said, you know what? I'm going to have another one, but I want it just like that first one.
Please. So the tough part about getting that like super stiff one out the gates or the first 2.
Yeah.
Even if they keep pouring them good, you're like, there's no booze in this.
Yeah. They'll start to fall off.
They fall off. Yeah. And then you just
switch it up. I mean, who wants that much tequila, honestly?
Seriously. Yeah. Come
Me.
on.
Yeah, speak for yourself, right?
There's another line he's jumping in. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. That is the one-stop real estate shop. We're on Facebook and YouTube, and you should utilize all those resources. There's great information, all the above. But if you go to FloridaTalkRealEstate.com, this is access to the entire team. When you're buying a home, selling a home, if you're stuck with a home, you don't know what to do, you need to prepare for a big life change. You got to have professional guidance. Pros. You probably know people that are okay at what they do, people that are good at what they do. Personally, I recommend going to people that are great at what they do. And you have a resource, a team of people that are phenomenal at what they do, that work cohesively together. I see it all the time. You can experience it for yourself. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Know it, use it, love it, share it. You can change lives with FloridaTalkRealEstate.com, including your very own. We're back in 4 minutes. Thanks for being with us every Saturday. Florida Talk Real Estate right here. It's Real Radio.
This is Real Radio 92.1 and 101.7. Real talk for the Palm Beaches and the Treasure Coast. Real Radio weather.
I'm CBS 12 meteorologist Charlotte Carl. Another beautiful day here across South Florida. Afternoon high temperatures will climb into the lower and mid 80s with lots of sunshine out there. Still relatively low humidity. We are tracking another rinse and repeat forecast for your Sunday with a nice cool down overnight, bringing temperatures back down into the mid 60s and lower 70s.
This report is sponsored by Compassion International.
Every day a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DePola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rauch will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rauch, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full-service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Camaronets, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
From the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios.
Have you been in an accident? Call Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys at 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
Real Radio 92.1 is WZZR West Palm Beach, an iHeartRadio station.
Make us the #1 preset on your car radio and on the free new and improved iHeartRadio app. Listen for all your music, radio, and podcasts. Free never sounded so good. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DePola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
Say it again, 877-927-6969. That's toll free. We got almost an hour remaining for you on this Saturday. It is the 26th of April. Of course, you can be a part of the program. Come on in. questions, comments, concerns. I just gave you the number. The first voice you'll hear if you do just that. There's our producer extraordinaire, Jimothy. What's up, my dude?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Always good to see you.
Good to see you as well, John.
Johnny C is me, your old buddy, your old pal. Mike Rauch, he's the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm. He's here and present.
Yep, presente.
If you don't believe me, you can join the live stream on Facebook or YouTube. That's Florida Talk Real Estate on either.
This is not AI.
No, it
This
is
is
not.
us.
Yes.
Yep.
Tis
April 26th,
Yep.
2025.
25.
Right.
We got our fearless leader here as well. 13 plus years now. I've told you he runs a top producer in Keller Williams team, the Florida Home Pros team and Keller Williams Innovations. There's Jimmy D, Jim DePola. How you be?
Happy South Florida, everybody. It's a
Come
beautiful day out. It really is a nice day out.
Can I tell you a quick little
Yes,
anecdotal thing?
Please.
So for my little girl's birthday, she's way into singing. She might be a pop star one day or actress or both. She might, be a five tool. She got a karaoke machine for her birthday.
Money.
It's probably the best gift that she's ever received because it's just been pretty constant. And if you're gonna sing, you gotta exercise your muscle, right?
I'm thinking of the movie Taken right now. Remember, he got her the karaoke, machine, and then stepdad brought out a pony.
That's been on a lot lately. by the way.
Yeah.
I can't not watch it either.
Good movie.
But I'm a sucker for some karaoke. Like, you don't have to twist my arm at karaoke. So she's like, anytime she's like, karaoke, I'm like, I just drop whatever. I'm like, let's go. Yes.
I did it with the kids when we were younger. You know,
Why
they
not?
didn't know my voice wasn't that good. Like,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
like, "Oh, Dad can sing." I'm like,
Yeah,
we're
my
doing
little girl,
duets. And
she's funny. She's like, oh, it's in my range. I'm like, range? Do you hear what I sing? I don't have a range. But anyway, I try to mix it up, and she's always blown away. She's like, you know all this music. I'm like, babe, I'm 50. Of course I know a lot of music. You're 12.
She actually might not quite get how much information you have stored up there,
Right.
Because you know a lot about a lot,
A little
Yeah.
about a lot of
and but you also know like details of stuff. Like it's impressive your
ridiculous
inventory
retention.
of knowledge. Yeah, yeah,
Stupid.
yeah.
So I'm going through and I'm just trying to find random songs, and I pick like 5 out, right? And I let them choose. I'm like, pick 1 through 5, and then it's just random, right? It might be a country song, it might be a rap song, could be some like super R&B, which my wife loves when I get all like soulful.
Nice.
You got to pound it out, right? Well, on my list last night was, and they never picked it, was Pink Houses. And I kept thinking about it the whole time. I'm like, that's throwback Florida Talk Real Estate right there.
Yeah, it really is.
That's
Yeah,
throwback.
right.
That hasn't been our intro for a long time, but
You guys had that as
We
an
had
intro?
pink houses for you and me.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually wanted
That's John
Our
Cougar Barbecue.
House. I wanted the song Our House.
Good one too.
Our house
Yeah.
in the middle of the street.
Our house.
I would have loved to have that song.
Is that
on
still is a very,
said
very,
I
very
couldn't-
fine house? Is that the same song?
Yeah, I think it
Our
is.
House.
It's a very fine.
It's a very,
Yeah.
Is that the
Yeah,
same as Our House in the Middle of the Street? I don't think that's two different songs.
Maybe
I
it
think
is
that's
too.
2 different songs.
Maybe
Yeah.
it is.
It is.
I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't think about that. But I
think
wanted
that is 2 different
I
songs,
wanted
yeah.
the Our House one, and for some reason the station said we couldn't do it. But then they allowed little pink houses for you and me.
Yeah.
I'm like, why can we do that one and not the other one?
Because
I
they
don't know.
owned, they had a license somehow.
But we had to
somewhere.
get rid of Pink Houses, right, Jimmy? I mean,
Well, that was our partner at the time didn't like it. He said it was a should I say it on here?
Oh, was it
Oh.
Rob? Rob?
Oh.
said-
Yeah,
Rob,
yeah.
what
He
didn't
said
he
he-
not like
He
about
said
it?
it was racist.
Oh yeah, he said
was-
that song was racist. That's
Yeah.
why we changed it.
Yeah.
That's right,
oh,
Rob.
there's a racist undertones to
Yeah.
the song.
Yeah, 'cause
I didn't
apparently it
get
talks
it.
about a black man.
Oh, I gotta pay
Oh,
attention to
yeah.
the words a little more.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's
Yeah,
all.
so I didn't.
Well, I'm
It's-
glad I didn't do it for karaoke.
I didn't
Oh,
think it was
I was going to
racist,
say, which
but-
version did you do? The John Mellencamp version,
It would've
or
been.
it's been redone?
I-
Punk. There's a punk band who did it.
Oh, nice.
Maybe every punk band has redone that song.
I didn't get to it. It
Oh.
was one that went unpicked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was pretty wild. Yeah, I forgot that.
So if you
I
guys wanna
forgot
come over
that's
and
why we
karaoke, just
changed
let me
it.
know.
I forgot that's why we changed it. But you're right. Rob had asked
Yeah.
to change it. I forgot about that. Hey, I can't believe I'm reading this. Okay, so you know what happened last week with the interest rates. Just to give a quick wrap up, everybody lost their religion. Right. So we've
Another
been
good
pretty.
song. Lose
we've
my
been-
religion.
Yeah. Right. We've been pretty stable for about 12 weeks now as far as interest rates. They went up a little tiny bit, down a little tiny bit, but pretty much flat the whole way, right? It was almost like glass on the ocean. And then over the last 10 days, because of the whole tariff brouhaha, what happened is that the interest rates spiked pretty fast, like in 24 hours. Everybody went into shock. It's like, this is going to be the beginning of an upshoot that's going to not stop.
Now you say spiked.
About a half point, I think. I'm going to get to Mike about this in a second, because those are day-to-day rates, and I only know the Freddie Mac rate on a weekly rate, but day-to-day, I don't know. So anyway, the interest rates jumped up a bunch. Everybody started complaining, and then it started stabilizing again. And then I think the following Monday, which was this Monday, it went up again, and then by the end of the day, it went down. And from what I understand, we've been pretty stabilized. So Freddie Mac, last week we were at 6.83%. And then this week, the Freddie Mac report, we're only at 6.81. So after all that craziness, we only changed 0.02. We actually went down 0.02. Not that, so you saved a nickel a month on your mortgage payment. But the thing is, we didn't see that big 7, that number 7 come up into the Freddie Mac report. Now, here's the funny part. Let me just read this, Mike, and then I want to ask you some questions. Listen to how Freddie Mac described the last week. The average mortgage rate decreased slightly this week. Over the last couple of months, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage has fluctuated less than 20 basis points, and this stability continues to bode well for buyers and sellers alike. And I'm like, stability?
Yeah.
Where are you getting that?
Right.
And it's like they're just ignoring all the mayhem that happened. They're just looking at the end result. This is where we started. This is where we are. So was
been
it
pretty flat is what they're saying. 20
Yeah.
basis points is 0.2, so 2/10.
0.2%.
Right.
So like 6.8 to 7.0 or 6.8 to 6.6.
Yes.
6.8 to 6.6,
Right.
something like that.
Yes.
But let me ask you what happened in real life. So like when everybody started losing religion that day because the bonds weren't being bought, and then the bond rate went up pretty fast in one day.
Yep.
Did it hit into the 7s that day?
It's hard to say whether it hit into the 7s because everyone's scenario is going to be different. But I would say that probably what most people's experience are who should really be rate conscious are people who are pre-approved and shopping or in contract but have their rate floating, meaning they decided to not lock their rate. They're floating for whatever reason. They think the market's going to get better. Maybe their close days extended. They want to wait and see. Or I think most people just you're pre-approved and shopping, and you're pre-approved and you have a rate that you're kind of using for your pre-approval numbers and analysis. So if people in that condition, that can span months, it could span a couple of weeks. And I had some scenarios where I was adjusting their pre-approval number by 0.5%, right? So maybe from 6.5 to 7, or 6.625 to 7.125, something like that. So there was a moment there, and then I was able to kind of bring it back down, because it's important when you're crunching your numbers. And Johnny has kind of experiences. He's been on a long-term thing. He's like, hey, Mike, can you update my rate for me? Because I'm not like super diligent with every single approval I have out there, especially ones that are longer term.
Right.
But so if you were in that world, you felt it, right? Because you might have been looking at this house and the rate, maybe you're like right up against squeaking against your edge, and that's where like that $80 difference, a quarter of a point, or $150 difference can make or break it. And so you saw it there and you felt it there, and I'm feeling it because I'm like looking at rates for various scenarios every day, right? So I'm seeing that daily, sometimes hourly movement in the markets, right? Like I'll get we've got this, we call it our guys on Wall Street. The guys on Wall Street, they'll send out a lock alert, which basically means like this afternoon, based on what we're seeing in the market, if you're locking now versus later this afternoon, it's going to be better now than later this afternoon. They're not talking about tomorrow or the next week. They're just saying, if you're locking today, lock it now. Don't wait for the afternoon.
Who puts that out?
It's our guys on Wall Street.
Huh.
That's what we say to make it super mysterious. Just somebody who's got a reputation of,
this is mortgage firms like juiced in connection.
Yeah, it's not exclusive to the mortgage firm, but yeah, some sort of paid service to somebody who, has at least positioned himself as an expert and convinced heavy duty mortgage people that he knows what he's talking about when it comes to that. Like I always like, because when we first started doing that, I'm like, when he's never ever saying, hey, float, right? Like float till next week.
Right.
It's never like that. It's just like, hey, this afternoon is going to be a little different than this morning in the wrong way. So go ahead and lock it in. Or we're not going to advise a lock just because there's nothing much happening. Right. So it's kind of a weird, alert system. It's like, okay, Mr. Obvious after a little bit. Like I can watch the bond and see what's basically
pretty
predicts what's
consistently
happening.
accurate though, or
No, I mean, not enough for my taste.
Right. Yeah,
I've seen it be wrong.
Yeah.
I've seen it be wrong. Right. Like this past few weeks, there were a couple where it didn't do what he was thinking. But remember, he's not talking about tomorrow. It's always about like, what's it look like so far today? And if you're going to lock it right now, or you're thinking about waiting until this afternoon, it's not going to get better for you this afternoon. So go ahead and pull the trigger, which I think is solid advice most of the time. Like my general advice is like, just lock in as soon as you can. If the rate moves down between now and like your close date sufficiently, we have what's called a float down or a rate renegotiation policy, which I've been able to take advantage of with some clients. I'm always watching for it, right? I know the people who I'm like, okay, we have seen enough movement, we can take advantage of that.
So what you mean by that? Because I'm not sure everybody was clear on it. When you get a mortgage, when you get into contract, you can lock it in, and if you lock it in, and then the interest rate does drop. With the mortgage firm, they have a policy, or I don't know,
float down policy.
Yeah, float down policy, where even though that you're locked in, if it goes down enough, they're going to recognize, hey, we know that the rates went down. We're going to allow you to reduce your rate.
Yeah. So essentially, you're able to kind of like relock.
Right. Relock.
Now we have parameters. It has to meet certain thresholds. Like the rate has to be better by a certain percentage. The cost or the points for the rate has to be a little bit better by a certain amount. So, you're looking for all those stars to align, and then you can lower your rate.
There's a national brand that actually uses that as like their marketing tool.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And the funny thing is well,
a lot of people
the mortgage firm can do that too.
Well, what you can do, and the mortgage firm, I think we're a little bit more open about what's actually happening, because I'm basically, when we're locking in, there's no padding in there to kind of cover the float down. Whereas somebody who's advertising, like the one that really gets me is like, we're gonna lock you in at your pre-approval. We're guaranteeing your rate. We're locking in your rate, because you don't know if you're going to be in contract in a month, 2 months, 3 months. Like, when's your close date?
Exactly.
So it's just like, it's really like being in the business. I just know it's a ridiculous premise, and lenders will not tolerate that kind of exposure, especially across all their customers. And so the way they do that is they have a little bit of hedge in there when they're locking. That locked rate is higher than it should be. Right, it's higher than it needs to be, and that gives them space to say, "Yeah, of course we'll float you down." Right, we'll float you down when it comes down. Yeah, because they've basically locked you in at an unreasonable rate. I would say that's my. I don't know for sure. I don't have like concrete evidence, but pretty sure that's what's going on.
So, over the last 10 days, it's been such a big talk about the mortgage rates, and what ended up happening once the smoke is cleared up to this point. It isn't like we're not going to have another puff of smoke that we're going to have to go through a million times again. But right now, all of that stuff, it didn't really mean anything. I mean, if you were out shopping for a house, your mortgage rate didn't change dramatically. It didn't push, for most people, it did not push them out of their, it wasn't like such a shocking. We've had, I can think of November of 2023 and May of last year, where we had 1 point or 3/4 point jump in 2 weeks. Now that can affect people, right, Mike? Like if you go up a point and it stays, you locked in at 6, and then all of a sudden the rates are at 7 2 weeks later, that's a big deal.
Yeah, we went like I'm just looking at like December 2021 through, that summer. Was a super sharp like increase, right? Even through the end of, we ended up November of 2021 at like close to 8%, right? Of 7 point.
Well, if you look at September,
no, that was even.
If you look at September 2024, we went from 6.08 to to 6.84 in like
that was
weeks.
the big lead up to the Fed cutting interest rates for the first time in a long time,
right?
Which they did. And then mortgage rates spiked up after that because the Fed basically said, yeah, we're cutting, but we're probably not cutting anything else. And I feel like we have been really in tune with kind of predicting what the Fed stance was going to be. Like all this, talk about cutting rates and everything. They cut those rates. I think we were surprised a little bit by that till the very last minute. We're like, actually, they're doing it. They're doing it. Yeah. And then, but they also came out and said, but we're still worried about this and we're still worried about that. And so that kind of like threw cold water on the hot fire that was happening.
All of that hoopla, what I'm trying to teach people, because we're going to be going through this probably for another year, is what we went through this, back in 2018. I feel like we're back in 2018 world again, as far as the real estate market and interest rates and people like really caring about all of that stuff, but not really understanding what's happening. And what I'm trying to teach people today is after those 10 days of all that craziness, we're flat. We're flat. It shouldn't stop you from doing what you were going to do 10 days ago. Now, we're always honest with you. So when the interest rates go up a point in 3 weeks, right, we're the first ones to say, I don't know what I would do at this point. Maybe you should hold off a little bit, see if these rates decrease, which they did.
Yeah.
Right. It took a long time. It took like 9 months to get that point back.
I think the big advantage that we offer people, Jim, is that like our philosophy is to just know your numbers and make decisions based on all of that information. And so regardless of what's happening with the rates, like it's okay to have the rate price you out of where you want to be and know that you kind of have to wait for, all scenario the same house, same price, same neighborhood, all that stuff, but the rate has to be here in order for it to work. And that's okay. Right. Like you know that and you're able to analyze that, or vice versa. You could say, you know what, this rate bump, we can tolerate it. We're willing to like get into that payment on this home.
It's that way though, whether the rate's 4% or 8%. Like
it is.
There's margin right there for everybody.
At the end of the day, and I don't know, and I know this always like in my mind feels a little bit like car salesy, like what payment do you need
what payment do you want to be
in? And the truth is, I've been a homeowner for many, many, many years. And guess what? My monthly bills are super critical to like my budgeting, right? So income and budgeting and a mortgage payment, a car payment, whatever those things are, they're part of my decision-making process, right? So at the end of the day, it is about the payment, the monthly payment, and can you get into something that's affordable? I am not particularly interested in, although it's like you look at these like long-term numbers, like what's my 30-year interest rate going to cost me over the full amortization period, right? $450,000, I'm going to pay back, $1 million over the life of the loan. I don't think about that stuff, right? It probably did the very first time I encountered it. But then I've sold homes, bought homes, like that's never been, it shouldn't be part of my decision making at the end of the day, right? Unless I'm like have a completely financial agenda, something like that. So at the end of the day, you get into a payment that you are comfortable with, your income is stable, you've developed some strategy on the cash, whether you have it, family, seller credit, all the stuff we talked about earlier. And then you just like you're looking for the house, the one that lands you at the payment that you can afford.
That's it,
and that you qualify for.
If you're thinking of being a buyer and you're really confused, or you've been a buyer in the past, but this is a completely different market, and now you're becoming a buyer again, and you're not familiar. All you got to do is pick up the phone and give us a call, and we'll be the ones that guide you through the process and get the answers you need, not sell you a house or. What we're here to do.
We're not convincing you to be a buyer.
We're not convincing you to be a buyer. We're finding out if you are a buyer, what would it look like, and does that look good for you or not good for you, and let you make the decision.
And I think we're helping people generally like decide, are you a buyer or not? Like what type of things do you need to be thinking about to decide if you're a buyer? So is it right for you and your family? Can you get into, is your job stable? Like all those things are like, okay, am I a buyer? I want to buy a house, but there's more to it than I want to buy a house.
Oh, a lot more.
And the one thing, though, I want to say about that, because I don't want to forget about this. If your number one reason is that you don't want to buy a house because you don't have enough for the down payment and closing costs, pick up the phone and call. Yeah. Because if that's the only thing holding you back, there are ways to solve that problem without you coming up with that money a lot of times.
Well, don't fill in the blanks on your own unless this is your world. If it's your world, go ahead. You know what needs to be filled in. Those blanks, you know how to do that. If it's not your world, let the pros that this is their world help you navigate through that. Get an understanding of where you're at. Maybe it's, hey, you're ready to buy a home and you can buy a home for this much. Or maybe it's, you're not ready and this is what we need to do. Or maybe maybe somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah.
As you were saying, though, you can call 888-973-7828. That's the number that you will find at floridatalkrealestate.com. That number is answered by a live body 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 888-973-7828. You'll find it again at floridatalkrealestate.com. floridatalkrealestate.com.
Yeah, I was going to talk about it. Kind of goes to what Jim's own journey, which is he's self-employed. His tax returns, the income on his tax return is super critical to being able to qualify, right? So it's always like, is your credit right? What payment you qualify for? And then what kind of money you have determines maybe what type of loan are you doing. And Jim's has been a more stretched out process because you're thinking about it last year, the year before, and you're like, I'm self-employed. I know I'm going to be a buyer at some point, so I need to be conscious of this stuff and consulting with my tax professional, my mortgage professional, just to make sure I do it properly with the long-term goal of being a homeowner, you know, qualifying for a mortgage as the main point. And just because you're not self-employed doesn't mean you don't have things that you might need to get lined up also. And it's never too early to get a professional set of eyes on your situation and to just help you understand, okay, well, yeah, you could do it right now, and this would be the scenario. Or if you're going to be doing it in the future, this could be the scenario. Or, hey, you know what? You're not ready right now because of this reason. Maybe it's credit. Credit oftentimes is something that people need some help with. And I feel like I give a solid practical approach to credit optimization.
Yep.
And it's not just like clean up credit. No, it's like optimize your credit.
That's right.
For a specific purpose, like qualifying for a mortgage. Self-employed borrowers, super critical. The tax returns, you basically get one time a year to kind of like get that right. And then you're waiting until next year, sometimes 2 years. I don't help people with budgeting, but to your point, Jim, if like cash is the only reason, you might want to think about why you're not able to save up. Like, it's hard to save up tens of thousands of dollars in a short period of time for most people. Are you able to save $500 a month? Right? Are you able to save $1,000 a month? Are you really not able to save anything? And that could inform like not what you qualify for, but what budget you should be thinking about. What are you paying in rent?
Right.
How does that feel like from a financial perspective? Is your income stable? Is it going to be increasing? Like, can you kind of count on something like that? So all of those things I talk to people about all the time. And that's what, I don't need you to be pre-approved right now and out there shopping now. That's nice, right? Green light across the board. Go ahead. Here, you set up, be on your way. But I'm happy to talk to people who I'm saying like, hey, 6 months or a year, maybe next year we'll do this. Like, let's get these things lined up. Let's like work on it. Doesn't even matter if you work with me in the end. Of course, I want to work with you. I'm building that relationship. But part of what I do is giving that type of consultation, Jim, right? Like just being prepared so that you can get pre-approved and qualified and get to the finish line on buying, whether it's your first home or your next home or whatever it is.
So a lot of people do fill in their own blanks with all the scenario, right? Yep. And that's the worst case. It really is the worst thing you can do. You got to fill in the blanks with the appropriate information so that your end game there is accurate. And I'm curious, we saw it a lot with the last speculation of the Fed dropping the rate, that a lot of people were anticipating, your mortgage rates coming down because of it. And it didn't. It kind of went the other way a little bit. And as you noted many times, Mike, it was, the industry kind of baked in the anticipation of the Fed rate coming down. So our president, Trump, he's kind of starting to hammer his guy. He put Jerome Powell in place at the Fed, and he's not happy with the rates right now. He wants access to cheaper money. I mean, clearly he does. And I think, this is the American way, but he's really starting to hammer it up. Now, Powell's in place till next year, probably the reality, unless there's like some legit cause for removal. It's probably not going to happen. He'll be there until
there'll be a lot of grousing until
a lot of that. But then the replacement is going to be somebody that's probably going to be a little more, at least aligned with the president's view of being, really hawkish on this.
Right.
Pretty sure.
Is it realistic for people that are like, yeah, I want to, but you know what? If I wait another year, mortgage rates are probably going to come down. We've seen this happen. It's not the caboose on that train. Is it?
I don't think.
I think a lot of people are going to fill in those blanks.
I don't think there's a way to reliably predict that. I mean, I'm in the mortgage industry, and I learned a long time ago that predicting where mortgage rates are going to be next week, next year, 6 months is not particularly
fruitful.
Fruitful, right? You just like who's getting it right.
Not good
right?
on that. Yeah,
you're not even like 50-50. It's like who knows? That's pretty much where it goes. I agree with you. The next Fed chair is going to be. I don't know if loyalist is the right word, but something along those lines. So somebody's super aligned. I also can see that. I mean, without getting political, I feel like Wall Street has some influence, right, about policy, and they may say, "Hey, no, we want somebody. We want a Jerome Powell, fiscally responsible, type person in there." So I think there may be some influence there. And we've if the Fed is fighting inflation, why would they be dropping rates?
Right.
Well,
right.
See,
it just doesn't.
So one of two things is if that scenario comes through, right? So let's say in the environment we are now, let's say they started dropping the Fed rate. Okay. The first problem that we're going to have is if we do get into a real crisis, if we start dropping everything now, we won't have any safety net for later, right? So we don't really have any major problems right now. And I know that everybody's uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable too, but the interest rates are not crazy right now. The inflation hasn't come yet. I'm sure it's on its way probably, but it hasn't come yet. Everybody's freaking out about what's coming, but it hasn't happened yet. And there's a chance it might not materialize. We don't really know for sure. But everybody's freaked out as if the worst is going to happen. And I'm not necessarily in that camp. I'm just kind of objectively watching everything. So the way I look at this, let's say, because I hear theories that they want to get the interest rates down to 4s again, in the 4s. That's dramatic. I mean, we're talking about mortgage rates into the 4s, right? That would be pretty dramatic, right? But only two things could make that happen, in my opinion. Number one is if they decide that they don't care about inflation at all, whoever the Fed is, Powell or anybody else, they don't care about inflation anymore, and they just want to lower the cheaper money.
Yeah, they don't care about affordability either.
Right, and they just want cheaper money. So they drop the interest rates. We get super high inflation. Right. Yeah. We get way higher inflation that we can't control, but we get that lower interest rate everybody wants. I don't think that's going to be helping the economy in the long run. The other way it could go is if they're dropping the mortgage rates start dropping really bad because the Fed's cutting the rate, is because unemployment's going up. Because the Fed, they're supposed to worry about inflation and employment. And jobs. Those are the two things, jobs and inflation.
And they only really have two mechanisms, and they either control, it's one or the other, really. They cut essentially
the spigot off for the printing of the money, or they start printing the money, and that's the only two things they got. That's their
mechanisms, and it's not print really an in-between. They kind of do, it's one or the other kind.
And it's a very dull tool, right? It's a very dull weapon to stop things. It isn't a refined thing, and it was designed to be that way, because what you could do is start picking industries that you want to succeed over other industries. And that's the way it used to be before we had the Fed, right? People were manipulating the economy based on the robber barons back in the days, right? Like if Rockefeller wanted it or JP Morgan wanted it,
Rockefeller was evil.
Right? Yeah, then they got what they wanted, and it didn't matter about what the national economy was. It was more about their economy, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying that we're getting into that now, but the thing is that
it does feel like when I say Wall Street has influence, I feel like there are the Rockefellers and the JP Morgans and who's the other guy, the steel guy, Vanderbilt.
But
Vanderbilt, right?
Absolutely.
I feel like that's still, and of course,
I feel like it's being. I feel like we've created. Yeah, I feel like we've been creating it again. We've been creating that whole hierarchy that we didn't have. I guess oligarchy now they call it, but we
and it's also
didn't see
global.
this
It's
as
more
a-
international
Yeah.
than those
Yeah.
times, of course.
But the bottom line is, if they really do drop the rates dramatically, it has to be either because
Crisis.
we're getting super high unemployment and they need to stop that, right? So they're trying to make cheap money so that businesses will spend money
Right.
to bring people in.
That's
But if inflation's high, nobody's going to be buying junk, right? Buying our stuff that we're making. So you don't need as many people. It can become, that's how you get stagflation.
Here's a question for you. It comes from Magali on this topic. She goes, do you think we're going to have housing prices like we did in 2008?
Well, the prices didn't really.
The lowest was 2012.
Yes.
Are we going to have housing prices like we had in 2012?
I don't think so. Right now, there's nothing on the horizon to show that, Magali, only because that
that was major
people
defaults.
are making their mortgage payments right now. We don't have high unemployment rate, and our foreclosure rate is very, very, very low. It's not even the normal foreclosure rate. We're 3 to 4 times below a normal foreclosure rate. Normal. We could quadruple our foreclosure rate
and get normal,
and we'd just be at the normal part, right?
And there were tons of people that refinanced when the rates got really low. Like I joke about like the 3%er club, but technically you could be like the 3, 4, 5%er club and still be doing better
really
than you were. So I don't expect default rates to really go up, even though like people over the past couple of years maybe have really been tight on their like qualifying, maxing out their qualifying payment, super tight on the budget. I think you see a little bit of people getting in trouble there. But there's a large majority of people that either don't have mortgages or have mortgages with very low interest rates. And we're not going to see default rates nowhere near.
To me, if we hit 7% in unemployment, I don't know. I kind of figured this out like 3 months ago, so I have it in my head now. To me, the magic number is 7% unemployment. If we get to that 7%, it's going to be big time problem. Is it going to be a crash like what we had in 09? I call it 06, Magali, because we kind of went through it in 06. But is it going to be like that? I don't think it'll be that bad. But even if we just get to a normal foreclosure rate, that's going to look shocking.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be 4 times the amount of people that are in foreclosure. And what that's going to be, news is going to cover it. Foreclosure rate quadruple.
It's normal.
Right? Yeah. And they're not going to say it's normal.
No.
They're going to say it quadrupled.
Right.
It can increase 400%.
Of course.
And people are going to start
normal
freaking
doesn't
out.
make headlines.
Right, because we're at a 0.5% foreclosure rate right now, guys, and normal is 1 to 3%. Right, that's where we are right now, for real. So I don't think
you have
that's
something, Timothy?
Well, I was just gonna. The only other thing I wanted to go on with Miguel with that was what was one of the biggest reasons that we had that crash, which was predatory lending, and we don't have that now. Or we don't have it at least the way we did in the early to mid 2000s.
I would say just super lax underwriting guidelines.
Well,
and I don't know if it's predatory lending or predatory consumers, right? Like, like, oh, I can do that.
It was both. It was being offered the opportunity to do fraud.
And you're like, oh, right.
Sure.
That's what it was.
Not
the bank's
even
like,
fraud.
I'll let you do fraud.
They're not fraud. Like, we don't care. Like,
No
just tell us how much money you make.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Don't even tell us.
Yeah.
We're just going to
I don't even want to know.
blank.
We know.
Can you fog this mirror?
Yeah.
Right.
Are you breathing?
Yeah.
It's funny. That's true. But here's the scary thing, Johnny. We've been talking about for years and years and years. What would be the one thing or one of the things that we would know that we're starting to get back to those times again? Where you start, remember we used to say, if you saw the ads, hey, take the equity out of your house and go on vacation or buy a car or do this or do that, right? We're not seeing those ads yet. But what we are seeing is Congress talking about relaxing the banking rules. Have you seen this in the paper recently? They're all talking about relaxing the banking rules, and it looks like they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, didn't you learn anything from the last time?
The CFPB was basically dismantled. Which was the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau.
Well, it's still around. They didn't.
Oh no, I
shut
know.
It down
Yeah,
completely.
but
they just filed down their teeth.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
But to me, that's an issue too. But the whole idea of Congress just saying, you know what, we think you've been on this leash long enough, and you know how to heal, so we're going to take you off leash. That's never going to happen. These bankers, they're going to do whatever they need to do to make money for today, and they don't care about tomorrow. Their thing is, what do I make today. I'll worry about tomorrow because I'm a smart guy and I'll fix that problem.
When they're constituent facing, it's all about housing affordability. And then the back rooms, the good news is we have access to that. What they're trying to do is make it unaffordable again. Like if you lower and you lax banking terms, right? Or we lower interest rates, affordability is out the window. Because now everybody's back in the pool.
Because now you got all these crazy prices.
They're not going to work together.
It's like financing your concert ticket.
So what you say and what you do are two totally different things. Again, constituent facing. We need affordable housing. We got to start building more affordable housing. And then when they're talking about lowering interest rates or laxing banking regulations, you're not doing anything that's serving that.
I mean,
you're doing the exact opposite.
Yeah, the lesson from the like deregulation in the mortgage industry before was that at the granular level, like you get to somebody like me and I'm saying, hey, wait a second, we're going from these level of products to now we've opened up the spectrum. Look how many more homeowners you can help get into home. And guess what? The more loans you do, the more money you're going to make. And these ones are a little bit different as far as underwriting guidelines and like how you, and we see that like those types of loans are out there and they're kind of on the increase. And people in my position where basically my income is based on the amount of loans I generate, why wouldn't I take advantage of these great programs that offer homeownership
because they want to buy a house?
Yeah, they qualify based on your regulations.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, what else could be the result of that other than, I'm going to do as much business as I can.
Sure. Right. Exactly. And so,
whether it's an insurance company that you allow to raise rates, my reinsurance is expensive. Some states say, hey, we're capping you. This is the most you can raise rates. Some states go, do what you got to do. Which is the better side?
What's the
depends on whose side.
What's the Latin phrase, Jim? Who benefits? Qui bono or something like that, right? Like
I've always been
it's kind of like follow the money. Watch who's benefiting the most.
I've always been
not
a player
the quid
guy.
pro quo.
I've always been a player guy, not an owner guy.
Yeah,
right. I always side for the players getting their money.
I thought you just crushed a lot.
What's that?
You crush a lot.
Oh, I do crush it. Yeah. But I'm a us guy, not a they guy.
I wanted just to bring up one little thing about condo crisis. About all the fees. We were talking about how in the building I'm in, the owners had to pay $70,000 for concrete restoration because of all the new regulations, because of that collapse in Surfside. So Governor DeSantis came out last week and really blasted the state house and or state Congress, basically saying, hey, you got to fix this condo crisis. You went overboard on the regulations. It's unsustainable and you're hurting a lot of people, and we want that fixed.
And just like the real world impact, you have people who are priced out of their homes that they probably own outright, don't have mortgages on. I'm talking like the older fixed income population, and their condo dues have just doubled, tripled. Everything. Yeah.
And so he's saying we gotta fix this. You got to do something. Well, last week, right at the end of the session, or I think the end of the session is either this week or next week. I can't remember, but right towards the end, they did pass a bill. I'm going to try to get this this representative on the show eventually. She's a Miami Republican named Vicky Lopez. She's created a bill that looks like it's going to be passed that allows condo associations to open up lines of credit to raise the cash needed for the building repairs.
Yeah.
The part I don't get about that, that's the only sentence in this whole article. Thank you, whatever station. Thank you. This news article.
Lines of credit with the state, you mean?
Yeah. So no, I don't know who's giving them the lines of credit. It just says opening lines of credit, that they're allowed to open the lines of credit instead of raising the money from the homeowners for building repairs.
They've been doing that for a long time, right? You've got these big projects that cost money now. You collect it from your homeowners over time, so you're borrowing that money now and you're paying it back. So there's been like you get a loan.
So what's the difference between that?
It must be something where it's state overview or overwatch.
What I don't get
regulation.
Is you're going to have to pay it anyway, right? It's got to be paid anyway. So whether you're paying directly now or to the line of credit company, I don't understand how that's going to be any savings.
Well, let's just assume that you have to pay for the work now. So you can't collect 70,000 from every single homeowner now, right? You're gonna spread that over time to make it affordable for you, like your people, right?
So that makes sense.
So you borrow it and then you collect it over time and pay it back.
Okay, that's making more sense because it's like literally one sentence in this article.
But at the same time, they also have to start putting money in the coffers
for the reserve,
future reserve,
and for the studies to show that your house, your place is structurally sound, because you got to have the money for that too.
And they've been doing this, Jim. Think about the CDDs, right? Like your community development districts, so where they come in and they build a new what's Loxahatchee Grove? What's it called? Westgate, right?
Westlake.
So Westlake, very, very. It's a community. It requires a bunch of money up front on infrastructure. So things like sewers and roads and water and
fire.
all of that stuff. And so those projects are financed up front and paid back through your property tax appraiser, kind of like the PACE stuff, but it's a CDD, it's a community development district, and it's a non-ad valorem cost on your property taxes. So they've been financing that type of thing and paying it back through some sort of governmental regulatory.
How much is a 50-year-old building that needs millions and millions and millions of dollars of work worth?
Yeah,
in the long run,
it's got to be something with because a home equity would be collateralized against the building.
Right.
This must be different.
That's why I'm saying I know it doesn't make sense to me. If you got a building that's in that bad a shape, like let's say the people couldn't afford, what's 70 times 150? It's like what, 21 million or $15 million or something like that?
Yeah.
70,000 times 150, like in the example I'm using for this
7 million or 70 million plus half of that, right? It's 105 million.
No. 70,000 times 150 units.
Oh, 70,000 times.
Yeah, but anyway, whatever that number is,
70.
Doesn't your place have to be worth more so that you could take out the line of credit if you don't have enough equity? And if you're doing it to repair a building that's in really bad condition,
so
I don't know. I don't know how the financing works on that.
I think that's more. It's got to be more of a balance sheet issue. So
I just feel like there could be problems with that. Like you're overextending in a different way, and then somebody else is holding the bag, not the homeowners.
But you have I don't know if it's guaranteed revenue coming in, but you have revenue coming in. It's almost like a business that's going to have sales. Like, listen, we have homeowners who are contributing monthly, every single month, this amount of money. That's your collateral, right? The fact that we have money coming in from our homeowners. Now, when homeowners stop paying the associations, that's a major problem. But it's got to be the building plus the revenue that's going to be coming in, right? But it's a tough one. So I'm glad to see that they're recognizing that there's an issue there. I hope it doesn't result in what resulted in the issue in the first place, was just allowing communities to kick the can down the road on long-term capital expenses. But I've been in association meetings, and you know how those go. They're like, how do we keep our dues low, right? Our homeowners want their dues to remain low. So every single year you have a decision to make about where your money is going to go, and people don't want their dues to go up, right? So there's those battles in the association meetings, like, well, let's cut back security, or we don't need to paint the lines in the parking lot this year. Our roof will last another 5 years beyond what they're telling us, So that happens in every single HOA meeting, no doubt about it.
Found out that Miami is number one for another thing, right? I always joke when I sit down with homeowners, buyers, or sellers. I have this form, and I talk about we have one form called the wire fraud form, which is a form basically telling any buyer or seller neither our team, our brokerage, the title company is ever going to ask for your routing and bank information electronically. And don't ever give that out electronically, because it could be phished and then stolen, and they're going to take all your money.
I'll just text it to you. It's fine.
So, and I always say when I fill out that form, the reason why we have you fill out this form is because we're number one in wire fraud. We're number one in mortgage fraud. We're number one in identity fraud, right? We're just number one in everything. Well, now Miami's number one in a new thing that I didn't know about.
This time it's positive.
No.
Oh.
Well, it depends if you're a bug or not. They're number one place for termites. They're number one in the country for termites.
Really?
So we have more termites in Miami than any other place. I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, here's the thing. Miami's number one. It was ranked number one last year, right? Now here's the interesting. I'm just going to start reading cities, and it's going from one down lower. But the thing I find out is where all these are. Miami, Los Angeles, Tampa's number 3, Washington, D.C., Orlando's number 5, West Palm Beach is number 6 for termites. Yay, right? We were 9th last year. Houston, San Diego, Baltimore, Dallas, Atlanta, San Francisco, Chicago, New Orleans, Philadelphia,
all over
New York City. Is there any place in the country that isn't infested with termites? Apparently not.
Nope.
I mean, even
Apparently,
New York City, right?
I guess they're pretty hard.
Yeah, an issue for them.
That's right.
Yeah. But Florida, I think, has more than almost any other area. We have Miami, Tampa, Orlando, West Palm in the top 6. Then we've got Fort Myers, Jacksonville, rounding out the top 50.
Duval.
So this is all coming from Orkin, right? This is an Orkin study. And
They have headquarters in all those cities.
yeah, it was
Or not offices, sorry. Offices.
right. They had offices. So I just thought that was kind of interesting that we're number one. Now listen to this. Termites cost American homeowners $5 billion a year in damage, often going undetected until they've caused serious damage. $5 billion a year in costs just from termites.
That's a big chunk.
And some of the signs for termite infestation is you see temporary swarms of small winged insects inside your home, cracked or bubbling paint and wood that sounds hollow when tapped, mud tubes on exterior walls or beams, and accumulation of wings or termite droppings are all signs of termite issues. My mom's house was just my mom's townhome was just tented for termites.
The whole thing?
Yeah, the whole building. The fourplex.
What was somebody selling or something, or just somebody noticed?
They're pretty good in that community about keeping up on things. And they
it's preventative.
Yeah, it's preventative. And
a tenting.
Yeah. And
wow.
so they decided they needed to tent it. And then they took out all the wood soffits on the mansard roofs and replaced it with PVC. So they would try to avoid having it in the future.
Issues.
Good and this just shows you that, some of these communities are run pretty well.
Well run, yeah.
And this one's in Green Acres. It's not some super exclusive place or anything. It's just
a nice neighborhood, though. I love that neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a cool little neighborhood. So anyway, I just thought that was funny. Miami's number one for termites also. Just thought that was kind of weird.
I was thinking I was thinking more like swampy or moist, but I guess it's all over the country, so it doesn't matter.
That's the first thing I was thinking too. Is maybe the humidity is what drives it, but as Jimothy noted, climate doesn't seem to really be the deciding
It doesn't
factor.
seem to be difference at all. No. And here's another thing. We even had like Arizona and stuff, so it's dry weather, wet weather,
Desert,
it doesn't matter.
Yep, tropics.
The only other thing I would have thought too is like a lot of wood framed homes versus concrete. But then again, we found out that there are termites that eat concrete.
The Formosa termites eat the concrete.
There's also termites that don't eat that stuff. Maybe they're counting them too. They're just out in the trees or whatever.
Oh,
in the rotten trees.
But. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Now Cape Coral has another creepy critter story I thought was kind of interesting. There's so many iguanas in this abandoned building in Cape Coral that it's become almost like a tourist attraction where people just go to watch the iguanas, right? And it's an abandoned, I forgot what kind of, this is in Cape Coral. And this is like, here are some of the residents talking about this building that's infested with the green iguanas. I'll be walking my dogs, walking with friends, family, and all of a sudden they just scurry like a scene from Jurassic Park where all the dinosaurs are running. I just thought, another person says, it's like a tourist attraction. People from out of town want to come and see these iguanas. They drive around, get out of their cars, and take pictures and videos. And then they said sometimes they even scare the dogs. But here's the funny thing is that they've not only have they taken over this building, it had a brick facade, and it's totally destroyed the brick facade. It looks like a demo company came in and started tearing down the building and just stopped. But it wasn't. It was the iguanas peeling off the brick facade. And it's a 2 or 3 story building. So this stuff, I mean, it's probably 2 feet high of debris laying around the skirt of the building.
Maybe that's a new demolition technique. It's like bringing in the goats to clean up the brush.
Yeah, like that. To cut the lawn. Now, I was thinking the same thing, like making iguanas the demo thing. But there was a biologist in this article that says there's no way that those iguanas are eating apart that facade. It doesn't make any sense to me either, but they're saying it's destroying the facade.
Was the building like that before they infested it?
Yeah, he says that it might be pulling out already and they're getting in between it and it might fall out because they're moving around in there, but they're not actually destroying it.
My actual thought was because they burrow under typically. My thought was they were digging out the under and it was causing.
Me too, like seawalls and stuff. I thought that's what I was going to read, but it was really more the facade. But I just thought that these iguanas there's so many of them that people are coming over to drive to this abandoned building just to look at the iguanas. So like you could go anywhere and look at it.
I would look at that, like the iguana hotel, like they're hanging out in the windows. They're just everywhere.
Yeah.
That would be kind of neat to see.
It's kind of like a scene out of Gremlins.
Exactly. Don't put the water on
over there.
Don't put the water on them.
Yeah, one swinging from a ceiling fan.
Somebody should do like the dogs playing poker, but with iguanas. Yeah, I'm sure they have actually.
Probably have, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, I just thought this was funny. I just love all these Florida creepy critter stuff. I just think I was asking Jared just a couple of days ago. Jared Perry CPA group.
That's what's up.
But I asked him, I said, do you ever see any, because he fishes so much, I go, do you ever see walking catfish? Because I haven't seen them since I was a kid, right? And he goes, oh yeah, they're all over the place. I'm like, really? Have you ever seen walking catfish around here? Alive,
not walking,
right?
No,
but you've seen like in the water.
I've seen like on television programs.
Oh yeah, but not like in Florida live.
No.
Do they have little legs? Or they just like
it's more like thin.
I've seen that with the snakeheads. Like snakeheads can
like that.
Migrate essentially.
Have you seen walking catfish?
No, I've not. No.
Yeah.
Never even heard of it.
I hear that music. Yeah. That means we done for the day. Quick question, Timothy. I know the Cats got the Lightning at home today at 1. Are we slipping into Panther coverage?
Right after this, we're going to go to a little bit of music, and then 12:30, we're going to start pregame coverage with the Florida Panthers for Game 3 against the Lightning.
Could you record Johnny karaoke? Is that what we're going to hear?
Yes. Yeah. No voice tracks.
What did you sing, by the way?
Johnny.
Oh, I've done a bunch.
Karaoke.
Yeah. Sailing by Christopher Cross.
Oh, ambitious.
Yeah. I did some CrossFit.
You got a good voice.
Lifehouse. No, I do not.
Oh, you just don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, zero ass given. Yep.
I'm kind of like that.
I was thinking of you recently. I heard a Christopher Cross song with Michael McDonald.
Nice.
That's really
great
that?
voices.
70s, 80s. We say 80s.
Yeah.
That's an 80s
right.
thing.
Yeah, rock time.
Yeah.
I did some John Michael Montgomery. He said Michael. It made me think John Michael Montgomery. Little Soul, the Auctioneer song.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that.
That's throwback country right there.
Never my genre.
It's great to have you with us every Saturday. Remember, FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Know it, use it, love it, share it. You have pros. Access to them all at FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Like Mike Rao, the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. Everyone enjoy this beautiful weekend.
Like Jimmy D over here, Jim DePolo with the Florida